everyone, this is Blue Collar Tribe Podcast, and I am your host, Splash. I have an episode for you. Get ready, because we're going to talk about safety in your home, but before that, let's listen to our sponsor. No handouts, just work. That is the motto of blue collars across the world. You and me alike, we understand what it is to get off a job site, look all dirty, getting ready to go out to dinner, trying to find some clothes that still represent that we are blue collar to the bone. Well, visit my friends at Trep Wear. That's TREP wear.com. What is Trep, you ask? It stands for the real everyday people. That's you. That's you every day. You are real. You are an everyday human being that just loves and has passion about what you do. Well, wear it pridefully on your shirts, on your shorts, on your jackets, and on your baseball hats. Visit my friends at trepwear.com and use my code SPLASH25, get 25% off, and be part of the real everyday people of the blue collar world. All right, everyone. Hey, Splash here. So we are in season 8. The funny thing about these seasons that I've been recording is I don't really have I don't know what day this podcast is actually going to be released, because we're on Valentine's Day, and I'm sitting in a chat room on social media with 3 dudes on Valentine's Day. I got Scott, John, and Seth there from Superstratum. So buckle up. I'm assuming this is going to be done in March or April, so I'm going to go to my roots real quick before they start talking on the mic. Listen, you guys are getting ready for your exteriors, whatever line of contracting you're in. Start your marketing now. If you need help, DM me. You know I'm here to help you. We have the programs built together to help you grow your business and make sure you have work every day of the week for you and your crew. But without further ado, how are you doing today, Seth, John, and Scott?
Good.
Doing well.
Doing great.
Good. So I met you guys at the Las Vegas National Hardware Show. You guys, you were in the National Hardware area. I don't think you were in IBS, but if I recall, you were in the hardware section, correct?
No, we were in the IBS section.
Oh, you were in the yeah. That show was so big. Let's be real.
Yeah, and we had a product in the new product spotlight which was down at the hardware show section as well.
Okay, so it was the new hardware, because that's really kind of where I hang out. I get lost in the IBS in the kitchen, because someone created a spigot that you put wine or liquor in that comes right out of your sink faucet. I don't know if you guys made it to that booth, but yeah, I would have never left. I was like, it's sweet.
My wife wouldn't have.
Yeah, most of our wives wouldn't have. So, Seth, you are the creator, the inventor of Superstratum. Am I correct in that?
Well, I'm the founder and the CEO of the company. I'm not the inventor of the technology.
Okay. Well, Tell us what this product is. I found this product to be very useful for contractors, but I don't want to I don't want to mispronounce or what it is that you guys do. So I'll let you kind of tell the audience what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So our brand and technology, our product line is called Superstratum. Our company is primarily focused on mycotoxin and mold remediation within buildings. I like to say, we're a mission-driven company. We're focused on health. Primarily, we're focused on chronic inflammatory response syndrome, all the autoimmune diseases and sicknesses and mental health issues that come when you live in a toxic building. This is something that most people are unaware of, that mold not only is an allergen, but it creates as a defense mechanism, and it releases toxins into your home. And these toxins are present in many buildings, homes and offices around the U.S. And currently there's very little awareness, and there's virtually no tools to fix that. And so you've got a lot of sensitized people who are suffering and who are being made sick by the buildings that they live in. So we developed Superstratum, which is a system of products and a protocol, both for professional service providers, for contractors and remediators, to prevent mold long-term, water resistant prevention, interior and exterior in and around buildings. And then we have consumer products as well, products that the DIYer, the homeowner can buy. Our remediation bombs, which are controlled release chlorine dioxide gas, that clear out all the odors and VOCs and any type of enclosed space. So that's what Superstratum is. It's a system of tools and products to help people live healthier lives and to get rid of mold and mycotoxins in their buildings.
Mm-hmm. This may not follow, and I think, John, this may be more up your avenue. because you're the mad scientist, and I hope you don't mind me saying that, but you are a scientist, so I always think of like that mad scientist creating something. Did COVID change anything for you guys in the direction you were going on there? And I only bring up COVID just because it's so still here right now. Because you're talking about molds, but I don't know how COVID, can it attach to mold? Can it grow? Can it spore, if that's even the right word?
What it really changed is that before then, we weren't living in our house 24/7. And that people, we build toxic homes. Think about it. We build this home. It's moisture in it for 6 months after it's built. We wrap it in plastic, and then we expect it's going to be a healthy, a safe environment for us. And think about a petri dish. It's plastic, and the agar food in there is ground up paper. That's basically what a house is made out of. So now that when we, because COVID set us in this house now for 24 hours, people that may have been slightly sick now were getting sick because they were living in this environment instead of being able to get out 8 hours, go to work, get in fresh air, and come back in. That is the biggest thing that COVID, I feel like, highlighted the problems, the epidemic, that our homes are actually a toxic environment, not a healthy environment.
Yeah, because mold, am I mistaken that mold like compound grows, like it grows on itself, it expands very quickly,
That's
or
correct.
in the right environment, it can expand extremely quickly. So how did I love this question, but your product is a little bit different, but how did it come to? What was the brainchild? I always picture, just for myself, I always picture people sitting around a table or on their phone, whether they have their cup of coffee or a beer or a cigar, like, hey, you know what? We should do this. And then you just do it the next morning. It just happens. So how did this come to? Where did the need come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my business partner and I, well, I guess the short version of the story is our flagship product, which is our Smart Polymer Coating Pro. This is what we were at the International Builder Show promoting to contractors. I can talk a little bit more about it, but it's a invisible, breathable, water resistant, abrasion resistant, long-term mold protectant. So interior, exterior, it'll last for 25 years inside of a home in a stud cavity, lasts for a couple of years on the outside of a home or a deck, prevents any sort of mold, mildew, algae growth. Can be applied to structural wood because it's breathable. So this is it's a proprietary technology to Superstratum. It's also revolutionary in terms of its performance. It's a brand new type of technology. If any of your listeners are familiar with any of these types of products, that claim kind of long-term efficacy, it's a very different type of chemistry. So my business partner and I stumbled across this formula from a chemist who had worked many decades at a large chemical company and had developed it kind of after he had retired. And so we saw the technology first, and then we also saw the opportunity that was there in terms of, this issue of CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It's the inflammation reaction in the body that's driving millions and millions and millions of cases of autoimmune disease every year. And that's largely unknown by people, which is shocking that it's such a large public health crisis, and most people don't realize this. But if any of your listeners have chronic fatigue syndrome, for instance, very, very common, it's becoming a very common autoimmune disease of constant fatigue. There was one study that found that 93% of all patients with chronic fatigue syndrome had at least one mycotoxin in their system, right? So that right there, is an illness being driven primarily by the buildings that we live in and the toxins that mold release. So we saw both of those things. We saw that, here is a technology that's truly disruptive and revolutionary, and that it can eliminate mold problems. We give a 10-year warranty for new home builds. You can treat the stud cavities and the wall cavities with our product, and you've got that peace of mind that even if you have a leak, even if there's moisture behind that wall, you're not going to get mold, and it'll last for years and years and years. So we saw that opportunity with the technology, and then we also saw that there's a giant story to be told from the health perspective, that this is something that most people don't understand. In fact, most people who are sick don't even understand it's where they're coming from, because we talk to these people every day who they call us because they think they've got mold in their HVAC system. And after a few questions, they tell us about how they have Lyme disease and their kids have panic disorder and their husband's gained 50 pounds and he eats healthy and he works out, but can't figure out why. And unbeknownst to them, those are all symptoms of mold poisoning. So it was really the combination of both of those things. We found the technology and we saw that there was a giant problem. And that's really what started the company.
Mm-hmm.
For my listeners, what is a smart polymer? There's a video on your website that I watched, and it talked about, I want to say it was in a shower. In my mind, I pictured it being in a shower where you showed this illustration of mold getting deep into cracks, which most people don't understand, that like almost every surface you have, I'm not the scientist, but I imagine almost every surface, even if it's granite, you have cracks in them. You have wear, tear, like a breathable part of it. Mold, bacteria, shit grows in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you clean it, but you're not really getting into cracks, because I'm going to try to be the scientist. From my understanding is that, like, even though you're using a cleaning product, that product doesn't break down into smaller molecules to get into the cracks. Therefore, you're just wiping it away. But the product that you have is a sealant, which one of my big questions I had for you is, you say it's scrub resistance or
abrasion resistance.
Abrasion resistance. One, I want to know what that means on the coating aspect. Being a painter, anything that you do with coating, I'm like, all right, I'm all in. But those two-part question: what is the abrasion? How did you figure that out? How's that guarantee on there? And two, what is a smart polymer? I actually have heard the word a lot, but I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a smart polymer is essentially a dynamic polymer, and as you I'm sure know, and some of your listeners probably do as well, coatings are made from polymers. Paints, coatings, these are all the same type of compound. And a smart polymer just means it's a polymer or a coating that can respond dynamically to its environment. So our coating and our technology, our product is the world's first smart polymer mold protector. And what that means is there's kind of two components to our product. There's the polymer coating, and then there are the active ingredients, the EPA registered antimicrobials that are in that polymer coating. So when you take a bottle of our product, you can spray it with an airless sprayer or a pump sprayer. Our cleaning products, come in 32-ounce bottles. But once that product is sprayed onto a surface, it's a water-based chemistry. So that water evaporates and leaves the polymer and the antimicrobials. And as that coating forms on the surface, it is, like you said, it's invisible. So it doesn't change the sheen or the texture of any surface. It will bond to pretty much any substrate, from wood, cementitious surfaces, up even into vinyls. You get some issues when there's really slick surfaces, but glass is about the only thing that it doesn't work very well on. So pretty much any surface.
So tiles?
Tile works great, right? Especially the grout is very, very good with grout. And so that coating forms in an invisible manner on that surface. And within the coating are, like we said, the antimicrobials, and they are partly bioavailable in the dry state. So when the coating gets very good adhesion to the surface, so it won't rub off, and it stays active in that dry state. So if any mold spore lands on the surface of that coating, it's inhibited. Any bacteria, it can't grow. And then when moisture gets into that environment, and this is the real key, because like you said, we use chemicals all the time to clean surfaces, but as once you turn the shower on or once you wipe over that surface, you're wiping those chemicals right away. So you're not getting any long-term performance to prevent mold on that surface. And this is really where Superstratum is different. So because that coating is there, and because water doesn't wash it away, when the moisture hits it, then the smart polymer kicks in, and that coating starts to open up. And as it opens, it releases more active and becomes super active in that state where mold is going to grow, when there's moisture. So once that moisture is gone and evaporates, the coating closes up, and it'll go through that cycle hundreds of times. So that means that in an interior application, say like a shower, where you're taking multiple hot showers a day, it will prevent any sort of growth in the grout on the tile around that area for 3 months directly on the tile, even longer on the ceilings and the walls, around the windows where mold grows. Exterior, in an exterior application, say you've got that, you just power washed your deck, right? You don't want any mildew or algae to grow back, or you've got a slippery sidewalk, or that shady side, where the stucco grows that algae or that mildew. Once you get that clean and you put our protectant down, we typically see a couple of years of protection, in weather conditions like that. And then inside the home, which is where primarily we're focused, we give a 10-year warranty in crawl spaces and stud cavities. The product will last 25 years in an application like that. And it's really, like I said, the first time, that a homeowner can have that peace of mind that, I've got, I'm building a home, right? And I want to treat all my cavities. I want that peace of mind that, if that sub sends a screw through the wall right as he's leaving and he nicks that pipe and a leak starts, or, you can't avoid moisture in a home. But when that moisture gets into that home, you have the peace of mind that even if you don't find it for quite a while, you're not going to have that mold growing, because once that mold starts growing, we get into the real issues. And I'd like to take a little bit of time and explain to, you and your listeners, really the problem that that our products are solving, because this is something that not a lot of people are aware of. The government says that about half of the buildings in the U.S. right now, both homes and offices, have ongoing water damage issues. So they're battling with some kind of moisture intrusion in that building.
And contractors, we all see it. We all see it. Every contractor, you walk into a house as a contractor, it's one of those things you look for. And some of these guys and gals that are they'll smell it. They'll know, like, hey, you have water damage here. So sorry, continue, but you're right. No, we see it all the time.
Exactly. It's one of the biggest problems. It's the largest makeup of property casualty claims. Moisture in a home, 98% of all basements are going to flood in a homeowner's lifetime. Right?
Mine just flooded in December. So yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that.
I caught it the day it happened. Thank goodness.
Good, that's good.
That's a rare occasion, I think.
Yeah, you said it earlier that mold can start growing 24 to 48 hours after that water creeps in. So you can't avoid water in your home, and you also can't avoid mold spores in your home. Mold spores, you open up a window, you bring them in on your clothes. Mold spores get into a home, and they're meant to be around us. They're around us outside. They're everywhere. The problem is, because we build such tight homes now, energy efficient buildings, like John was saying, we wrap them in plastic. We trap that air in because we don't want that conditioned air to escape. We want to keep our energy costs low. But when we do that, that means that now once moisture gets into a building, it's like it's trapped into a sealed bag, right? It can't evaporate. It can't come out of that building. So you add those things together, moisture that's trapped in a home, into a microclimate, with our HVAC system. You've got a superhighway that's circulating in everything in that air throughout the home. And then you've got mold spores. And that's what creates mold growth in a home. And what most people are aware of these days is that mold can be dangerous. Mold spores are allergens to many people. So they cause upwards of 4.5 million asthma cases every year. They are responsible for about 95% of all chronic sinus infections. If you have a chronic sinus infection, it's likely because of the mold in your home. So there are allergic reactions that happen with these mold spores. But mold has, go ahead.
I have a silly question with that. On mold, there's different types of mold, am I correct? So with different types of mold, most of us have kids. We have little people coming in our house. They go to school. Is that something that can be like transferred from COVID made us look at things differently. So if this sounds stupid coming from my mouth, understand I'm looking at COVID. Can it be transferred from clothes, from house to house and then just, latch on? Because certain types, back from my understanding a little bit of science, you can get two different types of mold, and if they connect and they can just grow exponentially. That's right. Yeah, that's the right word. So am I right in that? So those are the kind of things that you're looking at with the different types, because you're throwing out high numbers. That's a lot of people.
It is. It affects, because like you said, you can't get away from it. And we carry mold in on our clothes. If you got a kid who's running around outside, they're bringing. If you got a pet, if you open your window, right? It's we don't live in a perfect environment, so there are mold spores everywhere. Mold grows everywhere, and like you said, it affects a large number of people. Mold in the building, and what most people don't realize is that the spores are how mold spreads itself. It's like the seeds of the mold, but mold as a living organism is trying to survive in its environment. It also has a defense mechanism, and its defense mechanism is a toxin, and that toxin is called a mycotoxin. And mycotoxins are the real danger when it comes to mold. And most people don't realize this, but as mold spreads its spores, it shoots out mycotoxins, and these mycotoxins get into the air through evaporation and through the circulation of air within a home. And 25% of the population has a genetic predisposition to the buildup of these toxins in their system, right? So again, another very large number of people who are susceptible to this toxin buildup. And when you live in a building that has these toxins, and most people don't know, they can do it for years. They're odorless, invisible, they're extremely small, they're 0.1 microns in size. They're very, very small, which means that when they're circulating in our environment and we inhale them, they get deep into our lungs, and our body can't get them out. So the immune system launches a cytokine storm, all these little warriors that go out into the body to try and attack, and that creates an inflammation reaction in the body. Once that inflammation starts in the body, that's when all of the autoimmune disease, from fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, to lupus, alpha-gal syndrome, Lyme disease, is primarily driven by these toxins in the building. Then you get into areas of mental health. These toxins cross the blood-brain barrier. So brain fog, panic disorders, anxiety, depression, unexplained weight gain. The list goes on and on and on and on. And these are health conditions that most people would never connect, to a toxin that's in their building, right? They think, oh, I've got this mystery illness and I'm going to the doctor, and maybe they go on vacation and they feel better, and they come home and they feel worse. These are problems that just run in the background of most people's mind, or they're going to the doctor and the doctor is giving all these medications, but not asking them about their building. They've never had a test done, and until now it was very difficult or impossible even to test for these toxins in the home. And there's some companies now that are changing that, but there hasn't been a company that has developed products and that is really focused on this problem in the building. And so that's what our products are meant to do, to address this large public health crisis, by addressing the toxins within buildings.
And how many products do you guys have right now on the market space?
Yep. Currently, we have 3 primary products. So we have and we have both consumer versions of these and professional versions.
Okay.
The professional versions are higher strength for our professional customers. But our 3 products are our everyday cleaner and our hypochlorous acid. So this is a chemical that's extremely safe. It was developed in World War I, used to clean
Is it safe
wounds.
for my dogs?
Very safe. Yep.
Okay.
Safe around people, pets. I wash my vegetables with it.
Okay.
It's salt and water with an electrical current run through it, essentially.
Okay.
Your white blood cells creating hypochlorous acid inside your body to fight off infections.
This may sound weird, but I've heard the electrical current through salt. Doesn't it activate something in the... So I actually go to salt caves. Like if I'm feeling really sick in Utah where I live at, there's a salt cave here because I'm a hippie and I like to meditate too. But I feel so much better after. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But he electrifies the salt somehow, and I remember hearing this. So you guys are taking... That's actually a really old healing factor for those.
That's exactly right.
It's extremely old. Like they would put people that were extremely sick in rooms with... This is Himalayan salt in Utah. We actually have a really big salt cave. They're not a sponsor, but Redmond salt, if you find it in your grocery store, it's really good for you. But it's like that Himalayan salt. It has some ingredients. So he grinds it up and puts it in the air for you to breathe. It's so... Yeah, what you're saying makes sense because salt is like one of the most purest natural form. Am I right on that, John? It's like one of the most purest.
That is correct.
And not eating it, so don't just go eat a lot of salt because you're retaining a lot of water. But there's a smart way to do it. So, Seth, I have a lot of questions. I do have a question for John. I think maybe it's Seth. I imagine John because you're the scientist on it. I love the concept of knowing how things are done, the demoing. How long did it take you guys to create this? And then when you talk about the abrasion, I'd like to talk about that more because I'm already going in my mind as a contract. I'm like, oh, I could probably put this in my books because I'm a paint sprayer. Like I actually have a sprayer that does your product. Graco makes one. Shout out to them, the sponsor. But like you can spray these things. But when you're talking about abrasiveness, like I want to sell, if I'm selling this to my homeowner, like, hey, we're going to come in here, and spray this product. How does testing go with knowing it's abrasion free? And what does that actually mean to the consumer and the contractor who's trying to see why there's a value in this for my customers and for my own home?
Right. The abrasion performance comes, from the good adhesion that this product gets. Now, if I'm sitting here rubbing this surface over and over, that activity is going to be lost over a period of time. The performance, where mold is growing is typically in hidden places. If we visually saw it, we would naturally want to remove it, but it's trying to hide. It loves three things: moisture, darkness, and the organic food. And so, when we're applying our product, our whole purpose is to have enough abrasion resistance, slight abrasion, say if in a crawl space, a basement, the ceilings, that attic areas, and then inside those cavity walls, which there's not going to be any there. So that's the kind of, the slight abrasion performance to get the long-term, the 10-year plus performance of our product. Now, naturally, in a shower, what kind of abrasion's in there. And then the constant, rain or the water, falling onto that particular surface. And 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks, that's the kind of performance we see in that. And so, for those types of environments, what I try to tell people is stop the insanity cleaning and start protecting. Because in the rest of our lives, we build everything around protecting. But cleaning is the one thing that we've been indoctrinated by, is to constantly clean. But we would not accept that in anything else we do. To our health, that we're all about protecting so that we don't have to do the insanity over and over and getting the same result and saying, oh, wow. I mean, we talk about it. Bleach doesn't kill mold. That may cause an uproar in here. But the fact is, all it does is change the color. We know if we dropped on my shirt, changes that color. So in the mind, the people thought it got rid of that particular mold. But like you said, down in those deep crevices, it didn't actually kill it. So what's the odds of that same spore floating into that bathroom and landing in the exact same spot and start cultivating mold again? That's the odds of that is just, like you could win the lotto. So exactly, that's why it comes back like that weed in the driveway. It just keeps coming back until you actually, prevent it with something so that it doesn't.
And is there I'm going to hold that question. Let's hear from our sponsor real quick, because I have a question about application process prior to putting your product there and afterwards. So we'll say that for after the sponsor. Hey everyone, Splash here with Monkey Rung Products, your go-to ladder safety and paint accessories. Let's first talk about their paint accessories. If you're going through rollers and just tired of throwing them away or just don't have the time to clean them, they have the new Spin Pro and Spin Pro Mini available. It's an amazing tool to do your 3-inch all the way up to your 18-inch if you have the wherewithal to use those monstrous rollers on the job site. Also, their ladder accessories are amazing. It's like having an extra hand up on the ladder, but safely being able to access all your tools that you need to get the job done. Visit my friends at monkeyrung.com, use my code SPLASH10, and make sure you subscribe to their emails because they have a whole list of tools coming out for 2023 and you do not want to be left behind. All right, we're back with Superstratum. Okay, so we're going to get into the contractor, whether you're a contractor, DIYer. Seth, you dropped a lot of things. I was taking some notes and I want to put, I don't know if I can put this in an order. This is kind of where my mind is, the contractor mind right now, because I'm like, okay, here's what I got. Here's this plan. So I'm going to pitch this to you and kind of tell me where we're at. But first off, with the application, as a sprayer, I know that spraying through my sprayer, it can break down the particles. Then if it's a good polymer, it'll formulate just right. When we spray your application, it does formulate right with the polymers that you guys use?
Yes.
Okay. If let's just go into a bathroom or a kitchen, probably the two most common areas where there's always a lot of water and you have that in your own home, or if you were telling a contractor how the steps to put your product on, how does that step look for you guys with your products?
Yeah. So for our coating, it's very simple. Like you mentioned, you can be using a gray coat sprayer. We typically use a 411 tip. So the difference between
your tip sizes. Look at you.
Yeah, there you go. Right, we're having a technical conversation. But the reason, and I mean, as you'll know, right, that's a thin mist on that, on a light mist on that tip. And the reason is because that's how we get the best performance. So like I said, there's no other technology that's out there like our coating. And typically, some of the sealants, right, they don't get very good coverage. You need a lot of it on that area, and it seals off that, because that polymer, we like affectionately refer to them as dumb polymers, right? They don't respond. If that pigment or that antimicrobial is encapsulated in that polymer, it's not bioavailable. It may be sealing off of that mold. But our product is different. You want a thin mist there, because our product, as it opens up, it radiates protection on both sides of that coating. So it prevents anything from growing up out of the wood. If you've missed something, it prevents anything that lands on top of it. So the best coating that you get is when you get a light mist and that film forms, and you don't get a lot of runoff, because if you're spraying real thick, that runoff will run down the board. So for our coating, it's very simple, can be applied that way. And our third product, which I haven't really had a chance to mention, is our chlorine dioxide gas bomb, or what we call our remediation bombs. So this is a fantastic product for crawl spaces, for RVs, boats, anything, any enclosed space where you're dealing with some kind of mold odor, mildew, bacterial odor, pet, urine, VOCs. It's actually the way that gas works. It'll help cure paint, take all the VOCs and from adhesives and paints in a building out of the air as well. So this is a dry packet, looks like a sponge about that big. You set it inside the tray and add water. The two chemicals come together and start to create chlorine dioxide gas, which is the most powerful oxidation chemical. It's what was used to clear out anthrax, during the attacks, was chlorine dioxide gas. So these two products, or these three products rather, are very non-toxic, very safe cleaner. Saltwater electricity, that's our hypochlorous acid and our everyday cleaner. We have our remediation bombs, which will purify the air. We set those out all over the buildings, release that gas, let it sit in there for 12 hours, gets behind the walls, into all the soft goods everywhere, that air gets. And then of course our third step with our polymer coating, we follow up in those areas where there's moisture, or where there was mold growth, and we spray that coating on as that third layer of protection.
Well, I'm going to start with bomb because you had me there. So I have a property in Washington State, and we have a fifth wheel on it. There's a lot. Like every time I go up there, I have to spray my trailer down with mold. So how does your bomb work? If I were to go into the front, it's a 40-foot fifth wheel. So if I go into the front room of that, open it up, put it on there, what's the process time on that, and how? I want to ask, how do you know it's working? Obviously science is just the way that it works, but what things can indicate in that scenario? Let's talk about fifth wheelers, because there's a lot of us. There's a lot more fifth wheelers now on the road than there ever has been. And a lot of them are camping. They're traveling from, Scottsdale, Arizona, all the way up to Washington State, up the top from the Dakotas down to Maine, then back down to South Carolina. So doing a lot of traveling in a lot of different areas. And what you're doing is you're collecting a lot of mold and bacteria that could be there depending on where you stay at. So for a traveler who is doing this a lot, what would be like an outlined protocol? I don't even protocol is the right word, but an outline like, hey, this is what we suggest for this product.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it'd be very simple. You could take one or two of our packets, depending on the size. We have a 25 gram, a 50 gram, and a 100 gram. John, you can correct me here if I'm wrong, but the 100 gram does 1,000 cubic feet. The 50 gram does 500 cubic feet. Yep. And then the 25 gram does 250. So, based on that math, you put one or two of those inside the trailer. You open it up. It's real simple. Open the package up, put the sponge in the package and pour water in it, and then close it up and leave it for 12 hours. And it slowly will release that gas into the environment, and will do its magic. And then you come back, 12 hours later, open it up, air it out, and you're good to go. And then you could spray, like I said, you could spray our coating inside in some of those areas, or the outside, those areas where you're really going to get kind of mildew growth, and that's it.
Does it, if I put the bomb in my trailer, do I have to be vacant from that property for those 12 hours?
Yes.
Yep. You want people, pets, and plants, out of that environment. And what you were asking, kind of how does it work its magic? So, chlorine dioxide, with its negative charge, it's breaking down all of the VOCs, all of the odors in the air, anything with, an unsaturated carbon bond in its molecule, it's oxidizing that very aggressively. So, you can tell, the way that it works is you walk into that and you've got clean air. The odors are gone. You can tell immediately.
Does this eliminate? I mean, some people need diffusers, but does this eliminate the need or use for? There's diffusers, and then what are the ones that suck the air? I forget what they're called. They suck the moisture out of the air.
Dehumidifiers.
Yeah. Does it do anything with that, or is it still recommended that you use those in collaboration with it?
Well, dehumidifier, you want to keep, most of your environments around 45%, 50% humidity at all times. That's just, good for the structure of the wood, the materials that are in there. They're used to that kind of moisture. Get too dry, they get brittle. Naturally, if they get too wet, then mold tends to happen. 45, and typical dehumidifiers, they'll only go down to about 45% anyway. So that kind of maintains, what feels comfortable to us in that particular environment. A diffuser now, remember, you are releasing VOCs. Odorants and things are VOCs. They may be pleasant to you, but they are additional VOCs. People that complain about, different negative, organic compounds and stuff like that. Well, when you do an oil, even though it's maybe an essential oil, it's still the same thing as a regular oil. It just may be pleasant. So you gotta be very careful when people talk about, I use this and it's supposed to help me. Well, it's pretty much the same chemical, that you complain about in other areas. So it'll break down those particular VOCs, in a maintenance program for, your RV. If you did this at the beginning of your year before you set off, and then at the end of your year before you winterize it, that's kind of a program that you would kind of get on. And then that will keep any buildup, keep that, that mold from growing over the winter time. If you have a higher moisture area, since it's closed up, remember, mold likes darkness, moisture, and the organic food. So that's kind of a maintenance plan for RVs, boats, and then just, those particular environments.
Well, especially now that RVers are wrapping their trailers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these companies are saying, hey, wrap your trailer, fully wrap. I mean, here in Utah, people wrap their boats for the wintertime because you spend $50,000 on a boat in Utah, use it for 4 months of the year, but it's wrapped up. So it makes sense on there. Let's go to VOCs real quick. As a painter, I know what it is, but if you can, John, explain a little bit of VOCs, because like in Lake Tahoe, when I was painting up there, I actually had, I think it was wildlife, not fish and game, but it was a wildlife. He actually checked my truck multiple times up there, making sure I didn't have certain cans of VOC, or that I was within the limitations of VOC. For those that don't know why VOC is so important, because it is a word we're hearing a lot of.
Right.
It's a word that you're seeing on a lot of packaging and products. What is that, and why is it so important and relevant in this time?
Well, a volatile organic compound, that's what a VOC is. So, it's in a liquid form and it evaporates into a gas form. Okay. Water does that. Water is a VOC, and most people don't want to recognize that. But in paints and coatings, VOCs are used to basically lower our film formation temperature, okay, so that the polymer can coalesce. Well, legacy products were xylene, hexane, and stuff like that. When those that made the film, they could use a harder polymer. It would soften it in the coalescing, and then when the hexane or xylene, evaporated, that is the problem child out of that. But that polymer coating was very, very hard. Then they moved to water. Okay, they took out those products. The problem is now they had to use a softer polymer so that it could coalesce, because the water did not drop the coalescing temperature of that as much. So that's the balance of what that is. But the VOCs is that organic compound that's giving off from a liquid phase into a gas phase.
Nice. Seth, you said that if you use too much of it, you want that 411 tip. Most professional painters know what that tip is. So I'm not going to get into the science of that. But if we spray this product, we'll talk about your contractor grade. If we're, I guess any of the sprayable products you have. If I'm spraying it, what is the sign that's going to let me know that it's not adhering properly? Is there something that happens? Does it just run? Like what is that? It's like when you spray bad paint, especially aerosol paint. Like if you just know you spray it, come back 10 minutes later, and it looks like a horrible Valentine's Day for somebody because they're just crying all day.
Right.
Yeah. John, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing.
Does it gum up?
Yeah, no, it doesn't gum up. The one thing that our product actually, if you looked at it under a microscope, okay, our coating is actually a very poor coating. Okay, it would be exactly what you would not want, but it's done on purpose. Most coatings, they have film formers, they have rheology modifiers on there, so they lay really nice. They when they cure, they give you a very flat surface. You don't see any indications. The leveling of it is perfect. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you make that, now any moisture on the substrate that you just applied is now encapsulated in it. That is the worst thing that you could ever do to any type of structural in your home, especially on structural wood, because we all know when people have painted their deck that it only lasts another 2 or 3 years because of dry rot. And so a lot of codes across the country do not allow you to paint structural wood. Ours is a non-encapsulating. So in essence, because it's completely water-based with no levelers, if you looked at our product, it would be like little beads everywhere. But because we have what is called a zone of inhibition with our product, it's like a force field that goes around it. That's exactly what we want. We still get the air transmission that we're looking for on that structural wood, but any spores that land on it or anything that may have been underneath, that is an invisible force field. But I put a UV indicator in that. And so with a black flashlight, you can identify exactly where you've applied our particular product.
Okay, so if I'm spraying in my attic, I can see if I missed a spot.
That's correct.
Okay. I want to transfer gears over to the contractor side. So let's talk to contractors right now, because my mind went to a few things. If I'm a new build construction person, doesn't matter where I'm at, and I just have my concrete, it's dried, it's cured, I'm ready to build up. Could I take your product to preempt and spray a coating on that on the brand new concrete to help seal it? That way, if something happened, obviously, like you said, I don't know the length of time you'd get on that, but what if I sprayed it, waited whatever the time frame is, and spray it again? Is that a feature that a contractor could help say, hey, listen, we're going to spray this product because we're going to try to, I don't want to use the word guarantee, but your product, so you can say that word if you want, but
right, you're adding protection to that build environment. Typical build environments, 6 months to 9 months, or depending on the size of house you're doing, maybe a year. From your trusses to your structural wood to the concrete, nothing ever works on time. No. And so there's a lot of leg time. It gets rained on, and so if the trusses show up too early, if the framing wood shows up too early, you can now just spray that wood and protect it from getting any growth on it before it gets hung up. If that concrete was poured early, you can spray it just lightly with it so that no growth starts. So that's what a contractor brings, so that when that homeowner comes to inspect it halfway through, and they look down and they see on the eye joists or a big old LVL, and it already has mold start to grow on it. You got to do something. They're screaming and hollering. You just eliminate all those issues as a builder by being, once again, proactive, protecting, instead of doing that insanity cleaning that's 30 feet up in the air and having someone hang to try to scrub that material off.
So contractors, listen, add this to your toolbox. It's a great feature. I mean, it makes sense.
Plus, you can also, contractors, what we're having a lot of success with the contractors, being able to offer that value to their customers upsell. Mm-hmm. So we do offer a manufacturer's back warranty of this coating for the contractors, approved contractors that we work with. So that's a warranty. That's something that they can upsell to that homeowner, that building owner, to say, hey, we're about to put the house under dry, right? We're about to put the drywall up. For this much more, we can coat this entire building with a smart polymer coating that's going to prevent any kind of mold, give you peace of mind. It's going to keep mold out of that environment. That's a very powerful thing for a contractor to offer. In addition to, like John is saying, just protecting the materials, making the job site easier. I mean, we ran into a lot of contractors who were saying that they're having trouble with these. There's so many builders having trouble with crawl spaces, and even before that home is built, they're starting to get mold in those crawl spaces. This is a really simple and cost-effective method of preventing all of that.
You know why they're having problems with the mold in there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let's hear it.
Well, because we're humans. We tear down birdhouses just to make other birdhouses. So now these birds see the wood and they're like, hey, I'm going to go live in there. And then they're tracking in everything from what they get from the waterfowl to the dirt that they're playing in. And you're just makes it a horrible joke. But it's the truth of the matter. They're looking for a new home. And what is their home? It's wood. We tore it down. So maybe a bad joke, but I
like it.
It's true though. It's true. There's so many things that people don't think about too. Like, like we had a customer the other day, and in their crawl space, they brought in fill dirt, and the fill dirt came and it was rich in microbes, and so they, of course, had a microbe problem. They had mold growing
because the wood was just put on the dirt, probably.
Yeah. Because of the dirt that was brought in, to fill in the crawl space, that then of course, affected the wood, and because they had a tight building. I'll give you one kind of quick story to illustrate the issues that we see and why we believe that this treatment is so important for people. But I overheard a conversation. This is actually a friend of mine who was mentioning somebody in his family who was very sick. And, we see this stuff every day. And so it kind of sent up a couple alarms, and I asked a couple of questions about their home. And I said, did they have water damage issues? And he said, I don't really know. They moved into a new home, $1 million home. He goes, but they built it on top of an old basement. So I perked up a little bit, and he said, and I think they've got a dehumidifier down there. And I said, I know what's going on. Like, I'm going to come over tomorrow. And so I went over to the house. This poor woman was in really rough shape. It's a great illustration of when you have one person in a home who has the gene and the other person who doesn't, and who's susceptible to toxins and the other person's not. Her husband was fine, but she had chronic fatigue syndrome and Lyme disease. She also had parasites, skin parasites, which is a very common thing when you have mold and mold toxicity. You have a parasite problem and a candida problem in the body, which creates an ecosystem of all these organisms. They feed off of each other. So she had parasites in the skin of her face. And then she also had a really rare condition called Morgellons disease, where the body makes long tubular filaments that get pulled out of the skin. It's very awful, very awful. She was in bad shape, and they had no idea why. And I told them in about 5 minutes, as soon as we opened up their basement, we smelled all that musty air coming up from the basement. And what was a historic basement, it was a historic home built on that lot. They tore it down, they left the basement, and they built a tight, airtight building, $1 million home right on top of that basement, pulling up all that toxic air into the home. And it was killing her, right? And she had no idea. And this is, exactly our story right there, to say she probably had Stachybotrys growing, black mold probably was growing in that basement for 100 years, unbeknownst to
and the longer the longer a mold sits, the worse it can be.
Yes.
Certainly, it grows and grows and grows. And when you get black mold, black mold will eat other molds. So it will eat, it'll eat anything. And that's the mycotoxins that come from a few specific types of mold can be very, 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 very deadly. And in addition to her, I mean, I could tell you story after story after story after story of people whose health has been just absolutely destroyed. And, the unfortunate thing is that once this happens to you, it's not like you catch a cold and you get over it. These toxin poisonings can, even when you understand what's happening, it can take years of specialized treatment, to truly get better from this. So it's extremely, extremely important, like John is saying, that we get into this mindset of, first of all, aware that these toxins are in our environments, getting them out, but prevention, right? This is, what we're trying to tell the world is that this is a problem that we don't have to have anymore, because we have awareness about it, and because, we're now introducing these tools that can prevent mold and these toxins from
To
growing in
most
buildings.
people, it's an unseen death. They don't see it. They don't know it. Did you guys go in and spray her house? Would that be your cure? Do you go clean it? Do you try to remove the black mold, or you just spray over it?
Yeah. So no. So we worked very closely with some partners in the industry. I mean, we are of the mindset, we're not just a product company. We're introducing a whole philosophy about how you build mold-free buildings, how you take care of mold-free buildings, what needs to be done within the remediation industry when you find these mold problems. And it's very technical. We're in the middle of research right now. We're launching white papers to the industry. We're working with some leading training organizations in the remediation space. To us, it's very much about, first of all, that service provider understanding, what's needed when you find these types of problems. Because when you have a really difficult mold problem, it's not something that a homeowner can most of the time tackle on their own. There are certain mold issues, if you've got musty odors, you can do that work yourself. But when you have a real infestation, you need a professional. So training that professional, we always say, you want to follow the standards of care. You want to get that mold remediated. You want to get it removed from the home, not just sprayed, not just killed, right? Because there's some companies out, today who won't remove the mold from the home. They'll come in and they tell you that they can spray and they can kill it all. But even dead mold is an allergen and can be dangerous to sensitize people. So you want to get that mold out. And once you take care of that mold problem, you found the moisture intrusion, you mitigate it, then you want to address the entire building. And that's what our products do. They come in and they address not just that spot in the wall that the remediator tore out, but they're going to address the HVAC systems. They're going to address behind the walls, in the carpets, in your couches, all those places where those spores and those mycotoxins could be lurking that, as John says, you can't see. So, depending on I guess back to your question, depending on what the actual problem is, really depends on how we would recommend, handling it. But would always say there's no substitute for a good professional who comes in, who can test, who can understand what's happening in that building and knows how to stop it. Then with our products, knows how to treat the rest of the home and prevent it from coming back.
Awesome. How many, I'm always curious about this. How many test runs did it take you to get to where you felt confident that your product was doing what you had initially wanted it to do, and that you could put it on a shelf to sell?
Yeah, so our coating had about 10 years of development behind it. It had kind of been soft launched. It was being used by some remediators. There was lots of study done. There's been a lot of lab tests done. Of course, we've used it ourselves for years, seen the performance of it. It really is one of those products that's like too good to be true. Anyone who battles mold issues, when you tell them like, oh, I've got something that water can't wash away and you can put it on anything and it lasts for years and it's safe, they're like, nah, let me see it, right? So, even for us, it took a lot of like, let's go find that. I remember one of the kind of the biggest test cases that I had at my grandparents' house. Growing up, they had a brick walkway that always grew algae on it. It had all this overgrowth from trellises above it, and that would all fall down and it would grow. And every morning, when the dew would hit it, it would become so slick because it was all algae.
Yeah.
And I took our product, we cleaned it out, they power washed that, and then we sprayed it down. And it took about 2 years, for any of that to start growing back. And, that's in the Louisiana weather. It's hot, it's humid, it's raining, it's outside. And it lasts for 2 years.
So I was just going to
seeing that
ask that.
performance ourselves is important.
I was going to ask that because I have friends that they're painters. I mean, across the world, I have hundreds of friends that paint. But one thing I've heard from people like in Ohio, Louisiana, Carolinas, they get that algae growth, and they have repeat customers that they're power washing every year. And specifically one of my friends, he's like, dude, it sucks. He's like, it's a 3-day job, and so. It for the contractor side, could it be something that you do power wash it, go back once it's dried out, let some of that moisture release, if not all of it, then go spray this coat, and then maybe come back in 2 years. Obviously, you're adding your product, just like any other product that I find that I see value in. It's like, look, we're going to go to Lowe's and Home Depot, and we're going to buy tools. At the end of the day, that's what blue collar men and women love to do. Yours is just another tool. That's all it is. At the end of the day, it's another tool, and you're offering a solution to a problem. And I think that I was reading this article. This is about a year ago during COVID, when it was really hot, and they were talking about molds possibly being a huge reason why people have headaches, chronic headaches, migraines. But there's really no pinpoint thing. But if you understand, again, I'm not a mold expert, but I know enough about it to feel safe to say this. Like, you don't know how that is going to interact with your body, how it reacts to me, to the 4 of us in this room. It could all be different. We all grew up in different environments. You put us in a house for 6 months that isn't clean, or that doesn't have a protection, doesn't have the Superstratum on there, we're going to react to it differently. Each person, one of us could be really healthy, and the 3 of us could be sick, like you said, with, who knows what,
Yep.
But I like it. And then the other thing is, let's kind of, if we can, the 4 of us, go through a list. Like, I'm thinking, if you're a painter, you can offer this. If you're a GC, you can offer it. If you're a house cleaner, I think a house cleaner could find value in it. Maybe doing it in the showers and the kitchens where there's a lot of water, maybe twice a year. Say, hey, look, we're going to do this. Because we have a house cleaner and she does like a deep clean twice a year. We pay a little bit more. That's a perfect thing to add, to say, hey, we're going to add this. We're going to first clean the mold off, get it cleaned up. If you need to, retile because the mold just overtook everything, get that done, and then put that coating on.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, for that, everyday cleaning, or when you're doing a deep clean twice a year, spraying around your HVAC vents, where they get condensation, around windows, your return, spraying into that. Once dust is a food source for mold, so definitely spray this on your brand new air filter that you put in.
So what about HVAC guys? If you're an HVAC cleaner, perfect to spray in between duct cleaning. I think they're called duct cleaners. Sorry.
Yes, the duct cleaning, all through the duct, the plenums, the coils. Yeah. This is perfect for those types of products, or those areas.
Awesome. And it's 100% safe for your pets.
Yes.
I have 3 dogs. This is why I ask.
Yeah. I mean, we don't recommend you spraying your dogs down.
No. I don't want to spray them.
Yeah.
But, awesome.
But Splash, to your point earlier, I mean, there's our product is a tool, and it's a tool not only to solve a job, but it's a tool to, let that blue collar worker be able to accomplish more, he adds value. He can make more revenue. And we hear a lot of creative ways in which people are doing this. Obviously, the house cleaners, they can provide, long-term protection in those showers, those areas, where mold grows. It's great, like in garbage cans, areas where you're getting bacterial odors, you're preventing that bacteria from growing on surfaces. Obviously, power washers, soft washers, right? You can get that surface clean and spray the coating down. And now, instead of a 3-day job, right, you come back a year, 2 years later, and you're just spraying off a little dirt, and you're reapplying. So we're encouraging people to think about it almost like a maintenance plan. This is prevention. So once you get that surface clean, now you're just maintaining that surface for that customer. Same thing is true of builders, right? That's value that they can sell to that building owner. They can sell the manufacturer's back warranty, that value to them. They can eliminate that growth on that wood in those areas, the building's being built. And they can also extend, the beauty of that building long term by, spraying down the roof, by spraying the stucco, by spraying the sides of it, so that that building doesn't immediately start growing algae or mold on the
And
side.
it doesn't do anything to the paint, the bricks, the acid in the paint doesn't.
No,
Awesome.
Totally fine with all that. And then you even getting, into the marine areas, marinas, right? All the places. there was never a product before that could claim to keep mold and mildew off of boats because it was wet all the time, and our product does that. So,
and if you've ever waxed a boat, that's a pain in the ass to clean before you have to wax it. Exactly. I talk from experience as a kid.
Exactly. I mean, spraying, all my friends have pontoons where I live in North Carolina, and, they spray their jackets all in their wheel wells, when they winterize. And they're typically replacing all that, cleaning and throwing away the jackets. Now they use my product and they don't have to worry about it.
Right. Is there a training, if a contractor is listening to this or whoever's listening to it is like, hey, I want to add this. Do you guys offer a training program? Do you guys offer anything for educational? What does that look like for the Superstratum family?
Yeah, absolutely. So we typically do kind of a 30-minute intro call. We've got some protocols and manuals that, simply we can kind of familiarize them with the product, help them figure out how to fit it into their business. And then we're also in the process right now of building some more in-depth training through an organization. So as our company grows and really as we launch some new products in regards to the mycotoxin space, we can't announce them just yet, but there's some new products that are coming. It's just some specific protocols, kind of first of its kind protocols that are being developed in that industry as well. We'll have some additional training resources.
Well, when you guys launch that, you'll have to come back on the podcast and talk about it. If people want to buy your product, where is that available at right now?
Absolutely. So we sell some of our consumer products on our Amazon channel, but primarily we distribute through our website. So Scott here, our VP of sales, he's a sales guy. He can talk to any customer, of yours. Like I said, if you're a DIY consumer, I would say go to our website, superstratum.co. If you're a professional, if you're a contractor, if you're a mold remediator, go to the website, reach out to us, and we can set up a meeting and we can get you introduced to our professional products.
Yeah, I would say, and if any of your customers are interested in this, John and I do 30-minute WebExes where we'll jump on the phone with anybody and walk them through the product, how to apply that. They can simply just reach out to me directly, Scott Hethcox. You can find my information on the website, but my cell number is 615-973-2280. They text me or call me directly, and I'll be happy to walk them through whatever they need.
Yeah. Well, guys, I really do appreciate. I know it's Valentine's Day, and I'm not the face you want to see 7 a.m, but I do appreciate it. It was a pleasure meeting you guys at the National Hardware Show. I know you guys have other shows you're going to, but listen, contractors, if you're looking to add value to your business, and I like to be community over competition, but when it comes to some business models, you want to be ahead of your competition. I really do feel, especially for the GCs, the framers, I envision, this being, especially like in humid areas where you have a foundation poured, you're getting ready to put the electrical in. This is a great opportunity to just put in your system, put in your business. Like, hey, you get with these GCs and you just say, listen, it's, $7,000 will spray the whole area. I don't know what the market price would be, but, go in and spray, then just take a black light, make sure you have everything covered. I really do feel that brings, as you said, Seth, a lot of value to the business. But not only the business, I think you're showing these homeowners that you care about them. And when you bring up the words mental health, when you bring up the words, as a painter, we see everything. I've had people tell me like, hey, how much dust is going to be here? So years ago, what I did is if I ever sprayed in your house, like not painted, but actually sprayed in the house, I replaced all the furnace filters. I cleaned their ducts out a little bit, as much as I could. So those little things are important. And you'd be shocked how many people, even though they may say, let's just conversational speak here, their budget's $7,000, but you say, hey, I can add this product on, we'll throw $2,000 on. I don't know what it would be. That's for, Scott to have that discussion with you. Like, if it's like, hey, listen, we can actually add this on here and it'll be a total of $8,500 for this whole project. They're going to they're going to take it. If their health's important to them, or they have a child that's always sick, or like you said, a mother, somebody, it seems nowadays in 2023, there's someone in the home that has some element, but you just don't know. So why not attack it with a very clean, organic opportunity to, and just see a few months down the road if that's helped, what that is. Because not every time can you get into a doctor. Not everyone has that insurance to go spend, $1,500, up to $5,000 just to get tested, to have their insurance tell them they're not going to cover anything for it. So I'm going deep here, but like I see the value in Superstratum, and I appreciate it. Anything else you guys want to say before we go?
I just appreciate the time. It's been great being on. And
thank you.
If any of your listeners have any more questions, want to find out more, look us up, go to the website, give us a call.
Yeah, we'll tag him on there. We'll tag him on the social media side once we get done with this. So let's hear from our last sponsor. Again, this is my friend Spencer. If you're trying to grow your business, this is the company you want to call for Google and website. If you don't have a website for a business, this is it. Thank you, Seth, John, and Scott. It's been awesome. I'm going to have to pick up some of the sponges for my trailer because it seems like a value. I do want to ask one thing, though, before I go, though, because it came up and I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking. If I put it in my trailer before I leave, I think it was you that said this, John, can I just leave it in there? Like if I'm winterizing it, can I leave it in there? And then when I come back, we're good to go on that?
That's exactly it. Typically the tray, the little clamshell, you set it about 3 feet above I always recommend the old TV trays. You can set it in your RV. You pour water up to the water line that's there. You open up the packet. It looks like a crushed sponge that's dry. One side's blue, one side's yellow. You lay the blue side into the water and you walk away.
Awesome.
Wearing PPE at the proper PPE, with the application, but which is typically gloves, a P100 type mask or N95 type mask.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. And here's Plant Powered.
Attention Tribers. Plant Powered Marketing is your cutting-edge marketing agency specializing in SEO, Google My Business, website development, and many other strategies that get you ranked #1 on Google. We're your go-to marketing agency for businesses who want to see real, tangible results from their online presence. Our team of experts has years of experience in getting businesses to the top of Google and generating leads through effective online marketing campaigns. Remember to let us build your next website. Contact us if you want to outrank the competition. Plant Powered Marketing, 971-570-0511 or